My name is Jessica. I'm a 35-year-old office worker. Since my husband Bob, who is 2 years younger than me, was transferred, we've been temporarily living with his parents. I stress, it's only temporary. Bob seems to enjoy living in his childhood home, but I am eager to find our own place and move out as quickly as possible. This is because I simply can't get along with my in-laws, especially my mother-in-law. She was always a nasty person, even before our marriage, but after living together, her attitude is more harsh than before.
Jessica, haven't you gone shopping yet? You missed the supermarket's early bird sale. You can't even shop efficiently. Tisk, tisk.
I work from home with my company's permission, but I'm still working during weekdays. There's no way I could make time for my shopping at the supermarket's early bird sale time. Mother-in-law, as I've said many times, I work during the day, so I can't go shopping until after 5 p.m. Every time I say this, my mother-in-law criticizes me.
Here she goes, so arrogant. Can't even have a child.
Bob and I don't have children. We haven't specifically checked at the hospital, so we don't know who is to blame. I wanted a child, but considering Bob's income, we couldn't afford the expensive fertility treatments. Even before moving in together, I was distressed by my mother-in-law's nasty remarks, but it was better when we were living separately. Living under the same roof day and night, I am exposed to her nasty remarks 24/7. My father-in-law doesn't directly make snide remarks, but he irritates me in a different way. He seems to believe that women over 30 years old are old lady, and treats me, a 35-year-old woman, as such.
Hey, old lady, get me the ashtray. Why are you wearing a skirt? No one wants to see your legs.
I want to tell him, if I'm an old lady, what does that make you, who's turning 60? I'm not a pushover either, so I retort each time they make rude remarks about me. But that only leads to further deterioration of our relationship as they consider it bossy. There is always a tense atmosphere in the house, and I was already feeling the limit of living together. However, after the transfer, Bob started working more on weekends and going on more business trips, so we couldn't discuss moving out. Jessica, I have another business trip this weekend.
Again? You just went on a business trip. This new branch seems to have a lot of business trips.
Before his transfer, although he had to work overtime, there were hardly any weekend work or business trips. Can't be helped, right? The work changes with the workplace. Sure, things change when jobs change, but isn't this a bit much? Thanks to this, we are not even able to find a place to move, even though we were supposed to live with my in-laws temporarily. What if we had to live with my in-laws for a long time? I was afraid of that. But then, one day, something happened. As I was removing laundry from Bob's bag after his business trip, I found a piece of paper in his bag's pocket. It turned out to be a printout of an online booking from a travel website. I figured it was just the flight and hotel booking for his business trip, but when I read it more closely, I couldn't believe my eyes. There was a hotel reservation that included tickets to Disneyland for 2 people, and the date was yesterday. That is, the day Bob was on a business trip. Of course, Bob's company has nothing to do with Disneyland. Sure, they deal in seafood, but that's as close as they get to Disneyland. It doesn't matter. This means that Bob was pretending to go on a business trip, when in fact, he was visiting Disneyland for 2 days. And the fact that the hotel reservation was for 2 people? There's no doubt he was with a woman. As I was reeling from the shock, I heard Bob humming in the shower. It's a small world after all. The well-known theme song of a famous ride. He must have been reminiscing about Disneyland and humming unconsciously. But it seems that attractions are not important in a fun and enjoyable affair trip. I was so angry that I was ready to charge into the bathroom and confront Bob. But just then, Bob's phone rang. I was too enraged to think clearly, so I answered the call without thinking. Hello? Hello? For a moment, I heard a young woman's voice, and then the call was abruptly cut off. Could it be? I was convinced. The call just now was no doubt from the woman Bob went to Disneyland with. In other words, Bob's mistress. When she heard my voice answering Bob's phone, she must have panicked and hung up. I checked the call history on his smartphone. Bob isn't really security conscious, so he doesn't bother to set a decent password. I figured his passcode would probably be his 4-digit birth date. And bingo! The phone was unlocked in no time. But looking through his smartphone made my head spin. Evidence of his infidelity was pouring out of it, unmistakable and overwhelming. The image files were full of selfies of him and a young woman. The dates the photos were taken were all days when Bob had been on business trips or working on his days off. I was amazed at his recklessness, even leaving pictures of their intimate moments. Looking at the call history again, I saw the name Melissa Smith, so I searched for the same name in his WhatsApp friends list and opened the chat screen. "Bob, I love you. I want to be your wife soon." This woman, Melissa, seems to be hoping to marry Bob. A homewrecker, perhaps? As I was mulling this over, Bob came out of the bathroom. Ah, that's refreshing. Facing Bob, who came out nonchalantly, drying his hair with a towel, I confronted him right away. "Refreshed, huh? Seems like you're feeling pretty refreshed in a lot of ways." "Huh? Who is Melissa Smith?" At the mention of his mistress's name, Bob flinched. "So it's true. You've been lying about going on business trips, and instead, you've been going on trips alone with this woman, Melissa Smith? Were all your business trips and working days off just lies? Unforgivable. Why do you... How on earth?" I pointed my smartphone at the upset Bob. "All the evidence is right here in this smartphone. Hey, did you go snooping through my phone? That's a violation of my privacy." It's laughable that a man who's morally bankrupt enough to cheat can complain about privacy invasion. If you don't want it looked at, set a better password. Before we got married, I made a promise with Bob that he'd absolutely not cheat. I had declared to Bob that if he cheated, I'd leave him right away. Of course, my feelings haven't changed. I can't continue a marital life with a man who's playing around with another woman. Let's get a divorce. When I simply said that, Bob surprisingly agreed without objection. Yeah, I guess so. It was unexpected. I thought he would resist more. Was he ready for divorce once he was caught cheating? "I'll get the divorce papers tomorrow. You tell your mom and dad." Got it. Bob's agreement was astonishingly nonchalant. However, once a declaration has been issued, it cannot be withdrawn, and it has no intention of doing so. Is this goodbye to married life? I felt a tinge of loneliness. The next day, I left the house early in the morning to get the divorce papers from the city office and to take care of some other errands. By the time I got home, it was already late at night. There in the house, my husband and his parents were waiting for me. "So you finally come back. We were wondering how long you were going to wander around." The moment she saw me, my mother-in-law began to make snide remarks. Bob being present here means she should already know about Bob's cheating and our divorce. Isn't there something she should say, like an apology, before making a snide comment? But instead of an apology, my mother-in-law said something unbelievable. "Well, it doesn't matter. At least you're finally leaving. We don't want to see your face anymore, so it's just as well you've been gone all day." "What do you mean?" With a smug smile, my mother-in-law responded to my question. "Exactly as I said. I'm sick and tired of seeing your face. Finally, Bob has returned home, and you were just in the way. You're always back-talking, without any hint of charm, even when I tried to make you uncomfortable enough to leave. It took so long for you to get the hint. I finally had to resort to my ace in the hole." Ace in the hole? My mother-in-law gave a satisfied smile. "You already know the name of Bob's girlfriend, right?" "Yes, something like Smith." Why was she checking if I knew the name of Bob's mistress? You see, I have a friend from my book club, Mrs. Smith. Her daughter is such a well-mannered, charming young lady. She's 10 years younger than you, only 25. At that age, she can have kids easily." Then my mother-in-law dropped a bomb. "So I introduced Mrs. Smith's daughter to Bob." "Excuse me?" I was shocked. I never expected my mother-in-law to say something like this to me. "Are you saying, mother-in-law, you arranged Bob's affair?" "Oh, arranged sounds so scandalous. I simply introduced them." I was completely taken aback by my mother-in-law, proudly talking about her own wrongdoings. I can't believe that a mother would induce her own son to cheat on her. And she is so proud to tell her son's wife about it. What a horrible mother. Well, I had no other choice. Bob is our only child. We need an heir. I would have even accepted you as my daughter-in-law if you'd had children. But all you did was work, never having any children. Next to my mother-in-law, my father-in-law also nodded in agreement. So he was aware of his wife's actions. "Do you understand? A 35-year-old woman who can't even have kids is no longer needed. If you understand, then hurry up and leave." With a triumphant look, my mother-in-law pointed at me. After a moment of silence, I said, "I see. I understand your views very clearly. I'll leave as you wish. I'll take all my belongings with me." "Oh, please do. I doubt you have much to take with you anyway. Do you need help moving?" My mother-in-law laughed and said, even though she didn't know anything. But I was the one who would have the last laugh. "No, it's fine. Don't worry about me. Everything's already arranged." "Huh?" Since I wasn't crying or freaking out, my mother-in-law looked surprised. "Besides, mother-in-law, I already know that you were helping Bob cheat on me." "What?" I smirked at my mother-in-law. "What do you think I've been doing all day? If I just went to the city hall to get divorce papers, it wouldn't have taken this long. I spent all day arranging for a move and meeting with Melissa Smith." "Oh my God. You met with Melissa?" Bob asked me in a panic. "So what? Did you think I would let you cheat behind my back and not say a word to the other woman? I made sure to note down her phone number when I checked your phone yesterday," I said calmly. Poor Melissa, though, she was really surprised when I called her and said, "I'm Bob's wife. I'd like to meet with you. Apparently, you've been lying to her, saying that you're single." I told her the whole truth. Bob, my mother-in-law, and my father-in-law were all shocked. They never would have thought I'd pull something like this off in just one day. Melissa found out that she was the other woman in your affair, and she was really upset. Of course, Mrs. Smith was furious too, at Bob and at you, mother-in-law. She was talking about suing you both for marriage fraud. I couldn't help but sympathize with her, so I promised I'd help as much as I could. What? Bob was visibly shaken. Of course, my mother-in-law was in the same state. Given the many ways in which Melissa deserves sympathy, I've decided not to claim any compensation from her. Instead, I'll increase the amount I claim from you, Bob, and you, mother-in-law, and father-in-law.
"Compensation? Why the hell do we have to pay damages?"
My father-in-law blurted out in panic.
"It's one thing if it's just Bob, but we have nothing to do with this."
He seemed to have expected his son to pay some compensation for his affair, but they never dreamt that they themselves would pay. "Are you going to take the best part without getting hurt? There's no such thing." "Of course you do. The emotional distress caused by your harassment is more than enough reason, don't you think?" As I said this with a smile, my father-in-law fell silent. "And have you forgotten what I do for a living? I work at a law firm. Why don't I consult with my boss, the attorney, and see just how much we can squeeze out of you in compensation?" I had already informed my attorney at the firm about the situation. What? Then the sound of a car pulling up in the driveway was heard. "Oh, they're here."
"Hey there, this is a moving service."
I headed to the door with a warm smile on my face. "Thanks for having you come at late time. Sorry for the sudden request."
"No problem. We had a spot open for the night shift."
It actually worked out for me as well. I managed to get some other things done, so please get started right away. Oh, and be careful. There are some fragile items. As I invited them in, several movers began to shuffle into the house and start gathering the belongings.
"Wait! Hold on!"
Following my instructions, they began to pack up my things with a swift and efficient rhythm. Not just my clothes, books, and computer, but even the appliances in the living room and kitchen.
Hey, you guys, don't take that. That's ours.
No. I brought everything here when we moved in. They're all mine. When Bob and I first moved here because of his job transfer, all the appliances in the in-laws' house were old ones that they'd been using for ages. I couldn't bear it and had our appliances shipped over from our previous apartment. Now it seemed that my mother-in-law had gotten used to the latest appliances and mistaken them for her own. A robotic vacuum and cordless cleaner. A high-end oven range capable of various cooking methods. An induction cooktop. A negative ion hairdryer, and an espresso machine.
You're taking everything? You greedy woman!
Mother-in-law lunged at me, but Bob stopped her.
Mom, it can't be helped.
But it's all Jessica's. It seemed that Bob had accepted the situation. However, it seemed that my mother-in-law wasn't ready to give up just yet. Once you know the superiority of the latest appliances, you can't go back, right? If you're dissatisfied, why don't you buy new ones? Though, after paying the compensation, it seems unlikely that you'll have enough money to buy new high-end appliances. While this was going on, the movers were rapidly moving my stuff into their truck under my direction. They bowed to me and hopped into the truck. Okay, I'll be heading to the new address as well. Please make sure everything gets there. As I watched the moving truck drive off, I got into my car. Of course, this car is also mine.
Where is that truck going? Bob asked.
Huh? Of course, I'm taking it to my apartment. The one I lived in before you were transferred. My apartment. The apartment I bought when I was single was listed for sale with a realtor due to Bob's job transfer. However, because the asking price was too high, it never sold, and I still own it. The realtor suggested lowering the price several times, but I'm glad I didn't. I never imagined this would happen. As I fastened my seatbelt, I laughed softly. But maybe, just maybe, I predicted this would happen deep down.
What?
Bob made a face as if he didn't understand. Because I set a selling price higher than the market rate to make sure it wouldn't sell. This way, I could always move back to my apartment. Upon hearing my words, Bob seemed to crumble from the knees.
You, such a bitch!
Feeling sure of my victory and letting my guard down, I was suddenly shoved by my mother-in-law, who rushed at me yelling. As I groaned in pain, my mother-in-law attempted to throw a cutting board at me for a follow-up attack, but was suddenly tackled by a black object and fell down yelling, "Ah!" Thank you, Blackie. Holding the black object, a stray cat named Blackie, I got in the moving truck and hurried to my new place to escape from my mother-in-law. I don't know why Blackie, the stray cat, was there at that moment, but I'm sure he came to help me because he has a strong sense of justice. I'll give him some catnip as a gift later. After that, Bob and I divorced. The law firm I work at filed a lawsuit for compensation against Bob and his parents. It's a real blessing that the young lawyers in training at the office accepted my case for almost no fee at all. Even though a young new lawyer is in charge, I feel secure because they have the support of a senior lawyer. As for the lawsuit against Melissa Smith, the senior lawyer himself took on the case, not the trainees. He said he will file both criminal and civil lawsuits because of the high degree involved. He said he's excited to file a criminal lawsuit, as it's been a long time since he's done so. Even if they sell their house and pay to Melissa Smith and to me, it probably won't be enough. Thinking about the life of extreme poverty and debt waiting for the three of them, I can't help but grin. I'm alone now, but compared to living with those in-laws and my disloyal husband, it's like heaven. For a while, I want to enjoy the easy single life with Blackie, who I inadvertently brought to my apartment.